Hi guys, thank you for your patience. We're going to get started in just a bit. Hi everyone, my name is Noi. Welcome to the advanced walkthrough. Could you guys please let me know in the chat if you can hear me okay and if you can see my screen well? Awesome, thanks guys. Great, thanks for letting me know. Awesome, so we'll just get started in just a bit. I just want to wait for a few more people to show up. Hi everyone, my name is Noi and I'm a customer experience advocate here at Monday.com. And I'm really excited to be here with you guys today for our advanced walkthrough webinar to show you some of the main and more advanced features that we offer on our platform. I see here that we have a question of whether this will be recorded. So yes, you'll be receiving a recording of this webinar to your email. And if you happen to not receive it, please write into support@monday.com and we'd be happy to help you out. We have a bunch of recorded webinars on support@monday.com. Sorry, monday.com/webinars as well. Great, so welcome again to the advanced walkthrough webinar. So today I'll be diving into some of the powerful tools that allow our platform to be used to enhance any kind of workflow. So the webinar will be structured as follows. I'll be showing some of our features and going over some use cases for about 30 to 40 minutes. And then we'll break for a Q&A session for the final 20 to 30 minutes. Can everyone hear me okay? I saw that Jessica said it's getting cut off. Okay, great. Awesome. So if you have any questions throughout this session, please add them to the Q&A box rather than the chat box, so I can have them all in one place for our Q&A session at the end. I'll try to get to as many as possible. So firstly, what is Monday.com? As I'm sure you all know about what Monday.com is, I want to quickly explain that Monday.com is a project management, team collaboration, and communication platform that was built with a few main goals in mind: to increase transparency, accountability, collaboration, and empowerment between teams, and to make working more enjoyable while doing so. So with this being said, all of our features were built with these values in mind, and you'll see an example of how this looks shortly. So let's quickly discuss what we'll be going over in this next hour. So to start, we'll do a quick recap of the basics of the platform to make sure that we're all on the same page before we get into some of our more advanced columns. From there, the main things we'll go over are our views, more specifically our timeline, chart, and forms view, some automations and integrations, our newest and most highly requested feature, sub-items, which I'm really excited to show you guys. And lastly, we'll touch on our dashboards and how they're a powerful tool to be used for reporting and analyzing. And of course, at the end, we'll leave time for a Q&A to help answer any questions that you may have about everything that we went over. So as I mentioned earlier, please make sure to leave them in the Q&A box. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my own monday.com account. So welcome to my account and to my Design Studio board. So now let's go over some of the columns that we offer in order to customize your board. So to recap, columns, as you see here, are the main foundation of your board. And they're the main tools that allow you to customize your board, to organize, and to structure all of your data. So we offer many types of columns, allowing you to build your board exactly the way that you want it to be. So you can find here some of our most essential columns that I used on my Design Studio board. I have here a person column, which I can use to assign responsibilities to my team members. So in this case, for my project leads. So this column is great to help create accountability and to track who is in charge of what. So next, we have two different status columns, one here and one here. So as you may know, the status column allows you to see if the task is completed, being worked on, so on and so forth. But it can also be really useful in indicating categories, such as you see here, phases, or really whatever you would like it to customize to show. So next, I have a date column here, which is set to deadline mode, which you can see by the different icons here. So deadline mode allows me to have a very visual indication of whether my task was completed on time, as you see here, whether it was overdue, and how many days it is overdue. And this is all thanks to the deadline mode feature that connects your status column to your date column of choice. So I also have here a link column and a file column to allow me to centralize all of the relevant data and information about my Design Studio projects here in one place. So as you can see from the columns that I showed you so far on this board, most of our columns are meant for inputting a specific type of data. However, we also have more advanced columns which support other features in the platform as well. So two of these are our link to item and our mirror column, which I have here. So these columns work together to allow you to view and edit data or information from another board directly into this board. So by using these two columns together, you're able to link a different board, such as my HR pipeline that is linked here. And then you can mirror items directly from that board onto the primary board, allowing you to see and edit that information without having to switch from board to board. So as you can see on this board here, I already have a link created to my HR hire pipeline board, and that I use the mirror column here to show data from the pipeline board of the source of each of the people in my hire pipeline. So now, for the purpose of this demonstration, let's go ahead and create a link to item and a mirror column together, so we can see how this can be done. So I'll go in and press on the plus sign here to access the column center by pressing more columns. Awesome. So I'll first go in and add the link to item column, which allows you to create the connection between this board and another board of your choice. So I'll press here. And now by selecting a board, I can choose the board that I want to make this connection with. And today I'll choose to make that connection with my project tasks board. So I can easily show information from my project tasks board directly here into my Design Studio. So I'll press project tasks, link board. And now I'll press here to easily add in a mirror column without having to access the column center again. So now this will take me to an area where I can choose which column I want to mirror over from my project tasks board. So let's say I want to mirror over the designers in this case, because I really want to display them here in my Design Studio board. So I'll select it and press done. And now the connection between this board, Design Studio, and project tasks has been made. So once I'm here, I can now select items from my project tasks board, let's say project 1, for example, and you can see that the relevant designer will automatically be mirrored over here So I'll just show you guys a few more. You can see that the designer is just shown right away. Awesome. And you could even go and change the designer directly from here, and it will be reflected on my other board, my project tasks board as well. Great. So now I want to go ahead and show you guys another one of our more advanced columns, which is the formula column. That can be really useful to help make calculations from the different columns on your boards. So to show our formula column, I'll now go to my project tasks board. So I'm pressing here, project tasks. Great. So in this scenario, I have a date column here to indicate my expected finish date for each project of mine. And I also have a date here for my actual finish date, which we all know is not always the same as the expected finish date. So now I want to go ahead and use the formula column to help easily count the number of days between these two dates. So I can see the difference between the expected finish date and the actual finish date. So for this, I'll go ahead and go into my column center again by pressing here, more columns. And this is where you can find all of the columns that we offer, which we have over 30 of. So I really recommend to go around and play with the different advanced columns that we have. So I'll press here to add formula. Great, so now I can see that on the left side, I have all of the different functions that I can use. So you can really get creative with the kinds of calculations that you make. So for this scenario, I'm going to go ahead and choose our days function. Here it is. So I press days, which basically calculates the number of days between two different dates, which is exactly what I'm looking for here. So now I'm going to go ahead and press on the different columns that I want this formula to act on. So in this case, I want it to act on my expected finish date, and then I'll add in a comma and my actual finish date. And then I can press set to complete this formula and add it onto my board. Great, so now I'll go ahead and change the title here to days past expected finish. So I can easily see the amount of days past my expected finish date. Great, so this can be really useful. Now I want to go ahead and further automate this process by adding in one of our automations that will help automatically set my actual finish date, so this column, to the time and date that this status was changed to done, or to completed, sorry, which will in turn calculate the days past expected finish. So for those of you who don't know, our automations, which you can access here by pressing on the robot icon at the top of your board, allow you to use an event from inside Monday.com, like the changing of a status, for example, to trigger an action on your board, like setting a due date, which is what I'm going to do in this example. So using our automations can really help to reduce the manual work that you have to do by creating different automatic processes on your board. So as I mentioned, in this case, I want to set my actual finish date to the current date once this status is changed to completed. So to set this up, I'll go to the status change group. You can find your automation either by our different categories or by searching here. And now we'll use the following automation. Let's see. When a status changes to something, set due date to current date time. So now I'll just go ahead and configure my automation recipe. And I'll say when status, and I'm going to choose this status column. I have a few different status columns on my board. So here I can choose which one I want the automation to act on. So when prototype changes to completed, set actual finish date. I don't want it to act on expected finish date. I want it to be on the actual finish date to current date time. And now I'll press here to add it to the board. Great. So now if I go ahead and change one of the status labels here on prototype to completed, I can see that the actual finish date will be marked, and then the days past expected finish will be calculated because of the formula that I set. So this is just one example of how our automations can help reduce the manual actions that you have to do in your workflow. So you can create all of these automatic processes, and you can really get creative here with what you create on your board. You can even do this by combining different automations together to create a chain of reactions, or combining them with formulas as I did here. And now I want to quickly summarize and say that the formula column that we used here, the link to item and mirror column that we used on my design studio board, and our automations are just a few examples of our really useful, more advanced features that can help to elevate your workflow. So I highly recommend playing around with the different column types that we offer in our column center, as well as the automations that I showed you guys. We really have a bunch to choose from. So you can see how you can really enhance and automate the different processes that you have. Great, so how is everyone doing up until now? Is everyone okay? Can you please send a smiley face in the chat box if all is good? Thanks, guys. Great, so now the next feature that I want to show you guys is our different views that we offer, which can be a really great way to see your work in a different visual dimension. So when I click here, I can access the different views that you can set on your board. And I'm going to go ahead and open up our timeline view that I set up earlier. So this timeline gives you a really great high-level picture of what's happening, and it makes the dates that you've set on your board much more visual. So you can see who is working on what and when it's expected to be completed. You can even click into any of these timeline bars to receive all of the information for that given item, and you can even change it directly from here or drag the items as well. So now I want to go ahead and add another view to this board, which I find very useful. So that's our chart view. So I'm going to press here again, add view. So the chart view is a really great way to see the more analytical side of your workflow. So I'm going to press here to add it. And now this chart view automatically takes the data on my board and presents it in a graph, as you see here. So I can change the chart type here that I'm seeing. So if I want to show the data on a pie chart or line graph, as you see here, you can even change what you're viewing on the X or the Y axis, and a bunch of other settings on your graph. And now I want to show you guys one of our coolest and probably my most favorite and highly used view, and it's our forms view. So for the purpose of this view, I'm going to go ahead and open up a different board of mine, my Bugsqueue board, which I'll access here, which I use to track any bugs that may be found on the software. So now that we're in this board, I'll go ahead and show you guys our forms view, which I can add again by pressing here, add view, and then form. So now this view is really awesome because it allows you to easily create a form based on the board that you are on. You can then share this form with anyone that you'd like by a shareable link or embedding it on a website, and each response that is made to this form will create a new item on your board with all of the answers that were filled out. You can even go ahead and change the different names of the questions here to really customize it as you'd like, as well as the color, and you can add your own logo. So as you can see here, a form was automatically created based off of the different columns that I had on this board, such as source, customer impact, status, submit date, and more. And as I said, you can go in and modify the questions if you want as well. So to share your form, you can press here, share form, and you can either send out the link or copy the embed code to a website if you want. So in this case, I'll go ahead and press here to copy the link so I can easily send out this form so any of my employees can fill out if they've found a bug or a problem on the platform to report. So I'll go ahead and quickly paste this into another tab on my browser to show you guys how this works. Cool, so this is what the form view looks like when you send it out to someone else. So now I'll go ahead and just fill out this bugs queue form just so you guys can see what this looks like. You can add in any answer here and then press submit. So I called this one urgent bug. And I'll press here to submit it. Great. So now I'll go back to the main table of my board to show you guys that it went directly into my board. So here you can see urgent bug. I had one from earlier as well. So not only can our forms view be used to track and report bugs, as I am using in this case, it can also be really useful to collect leads, to conduct a survey, or for many more use cases. Great, so now I want to take this bug tracking use case a little further and to touch on our integrations to do so. So in this case, let's say I want to automatically send out an email to the person who submitted the form when their bug was marked as solved. So when the status here was marked as fixed, sorry. So before I proceed with this, I want to quickly say that as for most people, your work is probably taking place in a range of different platforms. So in order to avoid work silos and to bring everything under one roof, you can connect many different softwares with your Monday.com account through our integrations, which you can access here. So by connecting with other platforms, you can turn your Monday.com account into your team and wider organization's work hub to help bring all of your information into one place. So now I want to go ahead and show you guys an example of this by using our email integration. So for this case, I'll use Gmail. So just to remind you guys about my use case, I want to be able to send out an email to the user who submitted the bug request when it's marked as fixed. So for that, I'll go ahead and press here on Gmail, set up my Gmail integration, and I'll choose the following recipe. So I'll use when status changes to something, send an email to someone. And here I'll connect my own account. And now I'll go ahead and fill out the recipe so that when status changes to fixed, send an email to someone. So in this email field, I can choose exactly what I want the email to say. And I can even use the different fields in my board to automatically fill out the content of this email. So in this case, I'll have the subject be bug fix deployed. And I want to have the body of the email say the bug that you reported. And then I'll use the item name for my board because that's the name of the bug that the person is submitting. Has been fixed. Great. And then I can choose who I want the email to be sent to. And in this case, I want it to be the reporter column. So I'll press here and then add to board. Great, so now when I mark one of my bugs as fixed, an email will automatically be sent out to the reporter of that bug to let them know of this fix. So this is just one example of a use case for our integrations, but there are tons and tons of more options for you to really customize your workflow and to easily make connections with other apps that you use. You connect with many apps such as Jira, HubSpot, SurveyMonkey, Salesforce for Enterprise, LinkedIn, and many, many more, as you see here. And we're always adding more according to what our users are looking for. Great. So now that we went over some more advanced column types, automations and integrations, and views, I want to quickly get back to our views. And I'm wondering if you guys have ever wanted to share information visually with someone within or outside of your organization. So for this, you are able to share or broadcast your board view, which can be really useful when you have information that you want to share with clients, management, vendors, for example, or any internal or external personnel that you need to present this data to. So to show you guys this, I'm just going to go ahead and create a chart view really quick. And now, if you press on the three-dot menu next to any one of your views, you'll see the option to share the view. And by pressing here, you can get a shareable link or an embed code so you can easily present this data to whoever you'd like to see. So I'll quickly copy and paste this again just to show you guys what it looks like. So now if I send out this link to someone, it will look like this. And it will provide this person with a view-only picture of my graph, the chart view that I made earlier, and they won't be able to change any kind of data on it. Sorry about that, it looks like this is loading. Let's refresh the page. Okay, so I apologize for that. It's supposed to look like this graph. I'm not really sure why it didn't do that. Let's try it out with our timeline quickly. I'll just add timeline and press share and copy. Great, so now you can see that this brought up a timeline view of my board. Awesome, and this view, of course, is view only, so whoever you send it out to will not be able to change anything on it. Great. Okay, so now I want to go over one of our newest and most highly requested features, sub-items. So to show you this, I'm going to go ahead and pop over into a new tab where I have this feature set up. So I've gone ahead and opened up my property listing board to show you guys an example of how our sub-items can be used. So I want to quickly mention that some of you guys may not be able to see sub-items yet, and this is because it is still in beta phase of testing. And therefore, we have to grant you our beta features in order to see this. So if you guys want to try out sub-items and you don't have it yet, simply write to support@monday.com and we'll help you out with this. So firstly, what are sub-items? So before sub-items were created, many of our users were looking for a way to create a deeper structure to their board and to be able to break down their workflow into a more granular view, as I have done here. And with this in mind, sub-items were born. So you can now add in multiple items within a different item on your board to help provide you with the lower level, more detailed information that you were looking to have. So in this use case, I use this board to track all of the data about the property listings that I have all over America. And thanks to sub-items, I'll be able to have 3 different layers of information on this board. So to begin with, you can see that my groups are split up into the different regions across America. So I have here East Coast, West Coast, and Midwest. And within each group, I have the items broken down into the different states where each of my properties are located to give me a higher level view of the different properties within each state. So for East Coast, I have New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, so on and so forth. And now with this in mind, I went ahead and used our sub-items to provide me with a more detailed view of the properties within each of these states. And as you can see, you could have a different structure for the sub-items than the parent items to allow for as much customization as possible. Amazing. So for those of you who don't know yet, you can go ahead and add sub-items by pressing either here on the down-facing arrow, add sub-items, or by right-clicking on your item and then pressing Add Sub-Items. So now I'm going back to the use case, and I wanted to quickly say that one of the most useful features relating to our sub-items is their ability to aggregate information into a summary on its parent column. So as you can see, I've done this here for my total occupancy column, where the information from my sub-items are summarized directly into their parent columns. You can even click into each one of these sections to see more information about the given items that are pulling into that summary. So this is pulling this information directly from the sub-items here. Great. So using sub-items to show a granular view of my properties, as well as their different summaries into a higher level view, such as the total occupancy. I've also done the same for the property type breakdown, so I can easily see how many apartments, condos, so on and so forth are in there for each state. So this is just one example of how useful sub-items can be to help add more depth and content into your workflow. And finally, I want to go ahead and touch on our dashboards. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and pop into a different tab that I have ready here. So as you all may know, our dashboards are a really great way to display a summary of what's important to you from multiple different boards in one place by using the different widgets that we have here. So we offer 15 different widgets, which you can use to report on project progress, track budget, for example, adding charts, and many more to keep the high-level goals on site for everyone at the organization and to motivate and boost productivity. So it can be a really great way to report on the data that you have. So I've gone ahead and set up a dashboard prior to our webinar with a few widgets displaying my design studio data from the initial board that I showed you guys earlier. So as you can see, my dashboard is built by using a bunch of different widgets that you can customize and organize to your desire. So I have here a battery widget, which can help show the progress of all of my design studio projects together. You can even click into any of these sections here to get a drill down of the items that are connected to that, which can be really useful. So I have here also a numbers widget to calculate the final spending amount of all my design studio projects together. I have a time tracking widget to show the total time spent that my employees had on their projects. And I have here two different chart widgets to help provide a very visual breakdown of the applicants for my design studio projects and the different phases of the projects within my design studio. And lastly, I have here one of our newest features, our newest widgets, which is our workload widget. So with this feature, you can evaluate where people are allocated at any time to effectively balance your team's workload. It can be a really great way to manage, to use for resource management. So this feature is great to help see exactly how much each person has going on versus the effort and capacity that each user is able to have. So if you want to take a closer look at the team's tasks, you can hover over any of the circles as I've done, and to click into any of these to see the relevant item that is pulled into this widget. So you can see exactly what that person has going on. You can even go ahead and change this from here. Great. So now I also want to point out one more useful feature about our dashboards. So if you'd like to display your dashboard on a TV or a big screen without showing the left pane or anything else on your account, which can be a really great way to report on the different data that you have and to display exactly what you want to show to everyone, you can set up presentation mode. So you can do this by pressing on the three-dot menu here at the top right of your dashboard, and then you can select presentation mode. So I'll go ahead and show you guys what that looks like. So this gives you a nice, clean visual display of your dashboard, which you can choose to present on a screen if you'd like. Additionally, and equally useful, you can also print your dashboard and different specific widgets that you have by pressing here and print dashboard. So these all can be really useful when you're trying to report on the different boards and information that you have on your account. Awesome. So thank you guys so much for listening up until now. So I just want to remind you to add any last minute questions that you may have into the Q&A box. And we'll go ahead and start the Q&A portion in just a bit. Just going to take a sip of water here. Okay, great. So I see Valentina says she has a lot of questions about the formula column. Well, feel free to ask any of them here and I can try to get to as many as possible right now. I also do want to tell you guys that we have a really great webinar that's only about formula and how to troubleshoot it and some really interesting use cases for a formula column, which you can find on monday.com/webinars as well. So I do recommend watching that if any of you guys want to get into a deeper, more in-depth training on our formula column. Okay, so I see that Manal asks here, is it possible to link multiple boards in the same column? So what would the ideal way to do this if you want to have a single table to show a consolidated view for multiple boards? So that's a great question. So at the moment, I'll just go back to my Design Studio board where I showed you guys the link to item and mirror column. Oh, sorry, it's on a different board here. So at the moment, our mirror column does not support linking to multiple different boards. And if you want it to display whatever column you're looking to have from your other board, we can only link one at a time at the moment. But this is something that we are working to implement and to improve because I definitely see how useful this would be. So if you're looking to link multiple boards into the same higher level board, so you can either add multiple different link to item and mirror columns, and then you can always collapse your link column if you don't want to display it and you only want to show the mirror column. Or what I would recommend to do is actually to create a dashboard, such as the one that I had here. Sorry about that. So on our dashboards, as I mentioned earlier, it is a place where you can pull in information from multiple different boards into one place. So within this, we also have a widget called the table widget, which presents information from multiple boards into one board-like view. So I'll just show you what that looks like. So you can press table and then click on any of the boards that you want to show. And it will present it all in a high-level board view. Sorry, I went ahead and... Okay, sorry about that. I don't have access to all the boards that are on it, but I do recommend to check that out, or the different widgets that we offer here to allow you to see information from multiple boards in one place. Okay, William is asking, can you get monday.com to create custom automations? So that's a really great question, and that actually leads me to one of our newest features that's also in beta phase of testing. So custom automations is something that we're working really hard now to release to everyone. So at the moment, it's not released to everyone yet. It's in our beta phase of testing. But as I mentioned earlier, if you guys are interested in trying it out, feel free to email support@monday.com and we'll gladly add it to your account. But for now, if you do have it, you can go to automations and I'll show you guys a sneak peek of what it looks like. You can press here to create custom recipe. And what you can do here is basically select the different building blocks that you want to build out your own automation recipe. So for example, when person is assigned, move item to group, for example. And then you can go ahead and name it whatever you want, and you can save it onto your board. So this is a really awesome feature that will allow you to customize automations, and it's something that we're working on releasing to everyone. But if you guys want to play around with it already, feel free to email us and we'll help you guys. Okay, see here, Valentina asks, can we change the name of the chart instead of the name of the column? I'm not sure I completely understood. If you're referring to changing the names of our widgets, you actually can, our board views. So if you have a chart view, for example, you can go ahead and press here and rename, and then you can name it whatever you want. Design chart, for example. On Monday.com, most of our things are just click and drag and change, so it's really customizable, so you can change the names for most everything. If that didn't fully answer your question, feel free to leave another one or send it to support@monday.com as well. Okay, so I see JP asks here, is there a way to see a global view of all projects, teams, and dates, just to track if there are any risky projects or overloaded person? So that's a great question, and I think going back to my dashboard will be a useful way to show this. So if you guys remember, a dashboard is a place where you can pull in information from multiple boards into one high-level analytical view, basically whatever you want to see from multiple boards at once. And within that, we do have the workload widget, which I think can be really great to see if there's any overloaded person. You can really see here, basically the circles represent how much the person has going on versus the effort that you set to them in the settings. You can actually set that up here, effort and capacity. You can even edit the capacity per person. So this can be really useful to see if someone has too little or too much going on or just right. We do have another widget that may be useful in this case. Okay, yeah, so it's called Overview widget. And this can actually show if a project of yours is at risk or if it's on time or behind schedule. So you can link here multiple different projects and to get a kind of overview of where each of these boards or projects are standing at, which can be really useful. Thanks for the kind comment, John. Awesome. Yeah, so you will be receiving a recording of this, and then you can go ahead and play around with the different features that I've showed you. Great. Okay, so I see here that Jessica asks, when you make a shareable board, can those you share it with make changes? So that's a great question. So we didn't go over the board types today because that's something that we actually go over in our other basic walkthrough, but I'll just quickly mention we have 3 different types of boards. We have a main, shareable, and private board. A main board is open and accessible to everyone on your account. Automatically, once you add it, all of your teammates will have access to it. A shareable board, which I'll show you, is indicated by this sign, allows you to share your board with any guest or external person, which is what you're asking about today. And lastly, we have a private board that's indicated with a lock symbol here, which is private only to yourself unless you decide to share it with someone else from your team. So in a shareable board, I'll just open up one of my shareable boards. Basically, the guests that you add onto it will have full access to your board unless you go ahead and change the permissions. So they will be able to edit those boards and make changes, but you can also prevent them from doing so by pressing here, board permissions, and then you can choose what the members on this board are able to do. Like if you want the board to be view only or only edit content, so they won't be able to actually change the structure of the board. So this can be really useful if you want to restrict what your guests are able to do on your shareable board. Okay, so William asks, when will sub items be officially a part of Monday.com? So that's a great question. We don't have an exact time estimate, but I'm guessing within the next couple of weeks. We're just working on finalizing and testing last aspects of it. But for now, if you want to test it out, feel free to shoot us an email to support@monday.com. You can just say that you're wanting to try out sub items, and we'll go ahead and add that on for you. Okay. So Manal asks, can we see subtasks in the timeline and Kanban view? So that's a great question. So part of the reason that our sub items is still in beta phase of testing, it's because we currently don't support all of the features on sub items. So at the moment, they're not available when looking at different views. However, it is something we're working on, and I think it's one of the most upcoming features that we're about to add to our sub items feature. We also have a really useful live roadmap where you guys can see and check out all of the different changes that we're going to be having and making onto our sub items. So if you want to see that, you can also write into support and we'll happily send that over to you. Okay, so Carlos asks here, would you repeat the explanation of the possible start and finish date, the calculation with the formula and automation to generate the timeline? Yeah, so I'll definitely show you what I did. I just want to mention it didn't cause a timeline to be created exactly, but I'll show you guys what I had here. So it was on my project tasks board. I'll just go back to the main table. So what I did is I have two date columns here, one for my expected finish date and one for the actual finish date. So this is the date that I set prior to actually completing my projects, just to give a estimation of when I want it to be finished. And this is the date that it actually ended up being finished. And now I wanted to calculate the difference between the two. So I'll just delete it so I can show you guys how to set that up again. So by pressing here and more columns, you can access all of our column center, where we have over 30 of them. So you can just type in formula here. And basically how it works is that we have a section for the columns on your board where you can actually act the calculation on. And then you have all of the different functions below. So there's a lot of different functions that you can add onto your board. But to count the days, the number of days between two dates, you use the days column, days function, sorry. And you can see a little example and an explanation of what the function does just by hovering over it. So I press days, and then I can click here to add my columns. So I'll do expected finish, comma, actual finish date, and press set. And now it set the days. And then I went ahead and added an automation. I'll just show you what I did here. That when prototype changes to completed, it sets the actual finish date to the current date time. So basically, when prototype changes to completed, it's going to set the date here. And once the date is added here, the formula will go ahead and calculate the difference between the two dates. So I'll just show you what that looks like. So completed, and then the date is set, and then the number of days between these two dates was calculated automatically. So this is just one example of combining an automation with a formula, but you can really get creative here and do a bunch of different calculations. Okay, so I see, Ellie, you're asking if I see your questions in the Q&A. I see that at the bottom here, there's just quite a few. Also, if I don't get to any of yours or someone else's, I'm really sorry. I'm trying to get to as many as possible. You can always just send in an email to support@monday.com and I'll be happy to help you out. Okay, great. Sorry, I'm just trying to go in order here. Okay, so you're asking, is there an option of seeing views, such as map view of two different boards in one view? So that's a great question. At the moment, there isn't a way to see two different board views in one place, because you kind of have to toggle between the two different views, or as many views as you have here. I'll just show you guys what the map view looks like quickly on one of my other boards, because it's really nice. However, if you're looking to get a visual view of different information on your board, I would also recommend to check out the dashboard section of our platform, because it does allow you to see different widgets right next to each other. So I'll just show you another example of one of our dashboards. We currently don't have a map widget, but we do have different widgets such as a chart widget, battery widget, and this, by using them, you can really display the information side by side and to see it all in one place. So maybe that can be useful in this case, but I definitely like the idea of having the two views in one place. Okay, great. Yeah, and I'll go quickly into how the resource management widget is set up. So basically, I'm just going to expand this quickly. This is a different dashboard that I have. Press here to add and edit boards. So here on the settings, I connected the different boards that I want to pull in information into one place. And what you need to make sure in order to set this up properly is that you have a time column on each of your board. So this can be either a due date or a timeline. And this is where this widget takes information from about how long the task will take. And then you have to make sure that it's assigned to someone on that board. So you can see all the different people that I have here where my items are assigned to. And if you have multiple person columns on your board, you can choose here which one you want to show here. And then if you go into effort and capacity, so this is probably the most important section of the resource management widget, because here is where you're going to set the weekly capacity that someone has. So you can have it display whatever you want, like let's say 5 items. And you can also add effort. So you can define here which column presents the effort. And you can really set it up to what you want it to be here. You can even, so this is a default capacity for everyone here, but you can also edit the capacity per person. So if you don't want it to be equal for everyone, I can set the max to 10, for example. And then if you uncheck this, sorry, you can really set any number up to 10, 5. So let's say if you have someone that's working part-time, you want them to only have 5 items that they're assigned to that week. So it really depends what you set here, and that's what's going to affect how your circles are displayed here. So basically, if they're filled fully, that means that that person has reached their capacity or is about to reach their capacity. And this person does not have that many items assigned to them. Sorry, one moment. Sorry about that, guys. My computer was about to die. Okay, great. So, sorry, I'll just get back to the Q&A now. I want to make sure I get to as many as possible here. Quickly. So, at the moment, it's not possible to set hours. Instead, it's working based off of items instead of hours, but that's a really great idea, which I'll definitely pass along to our product team. So thank you. Okay. Okay, so I see here a question of how do you rearrange columns? Let me just go back to one of our boards. So as I mentioned before, Monday.com is like, it's very customizable, and we really want to make it easy for you to edit everything on your board. So almost everything is just drag and drop. You can simply press it and move it wherever you want. You can also really change everything, like the titles of the columns. So for example, the status column here is showing priority instead of a status label. So this is how you would rearrange the columns on your board. You can do the same for groups as well and reorder them this way. Okay, great. Okay, so in a project, am I able to dynamically change the due dates that were preset midway through a project and have everything shift automatically without having to change the dates? Okay, so that's a really great question. So you can actually set up your board to achieve this, but unless you set it up in a certain way, changing the deadline will not affect any other column on your board. So in order to set this up, I'll show you guys quickly. We have our dependencies. Sorry, I'll just go back to one of my boards. Let's say Design Studio board. So as the name sounds, dependencies allow you to have items that are dependent on each other. So let's say if one due date changes, another one will change in response to that. So to add that, you go ahead and press into your column center and then dependency to add a dependency column. And basically it works together with an automation on your board to kind of create the connection between different items on your board. So I'll just press here to set up your automation. And I'll just go to my dependencies section. So let's say, for example, I'll use this one. Ensure that the date of an item always starts after the date of its dependency item. So I'll use that one. So I'll pick the date column here. So now I'm ensuring that the deadline of an item always starts after the date of its dependency item. I'm just going to click on the dependency column. And now I'll show you guys what that looks like. I'm just going to drag it over here so it's next to the date column just to make it easier to understand. So in this case, I'm going to have project 2 be dependent on project 1. So what I'll do is I'll press project 1 here. And let's say I want project 3 to be dependent on project 2. So this is where you set the connection between one item on your board to another item. So project 3 is dependent on project 2. Project 2 is dependent on project 1. So on and so forth. I'll have this dependent on project 3. So now when I'm changing the deadline of project 3, which I see that project 4 is dependent on, I want it to always be after that date, according to the automation that I set up. Let me show you guys one more. So ensure that the deadline of an item always starts after its dependency item. So in this case, I see that project 3 is dependent on project 2. So I'm going to change it to, let's say, March 28th. And then I can see here, it changed it to March 29th because I said that it always needs to be after the date of its dependency. So same goes for project 3. If I change it, let's say, even all the way to May, it's going to change this one to the day after. So this is a way that you can create that connection between different items on your board. I also want to show you guys something quickly that also responds to this question. If you want to change a bunch of dates or really anything on your board all at once, we have something called batch actions here where you can press on multiple items. Also, if you press shift and then you press on a lower item, it fills out all the items in between. And then if you go ahead and you change a date, it'll change all of the items to that date. Or you can shift all of the selected items by a certain amount of days. So this can be really useful if you understood that, I don't know, one of your tasks has got delayed and it's really changing the whole timeline of your project. So you can go ahead and select all of the items on your board. You can shift them all at once. And that way you can see that everything is aligned according to the change. Awesome. Okay, so I see here that there's a question. Is it possible to invite guests in groups so they can see only the groups I invited them and not the whole board? Okay, so if I understood you correctly, you're looking to invite guests only to a specific group of your board. So at the moment, we don't have that option. If you invite a guest to your board, they'll always see everything. But I did want to show you guys another option that we have here is to filter your board based off of anything. So let's say you want to show only one group, let's say Q1. You can save this as a view. You can go ahead and name it Q1. So now if I have a guest or someone that is only, that their items only apply to Q1, I can just have them access this view really easily. But at the moment, there is no way to set restrictions. Like they'll still be able to toggle to the main view as well, if that makes sense. It is a great idea though. I definitely see the need for that. Awesome. Okay, so we are running out of time, guys. I'm really sorry if there's a few questions that I didn't get to. If there's anything left unanswered, you guys are always welcome to email support@monday.com. I'm just gonna go back to my resources quickly to show you guys what this looks like. So if you need more help, you can always go to monday.com/support, where we have all our knowledge-based articles on some of the more advanced columns as well. Like we have one all about formulas, link to item and mirror column, really any feature that we offer. Monday.com stories is where you can find real customer inspiration, where you can then use those boards as templates. And of course, we're available on support@monday.com 24/7. So if I didn't get to one of your questions, please feel free to ask it there and we'll be happy to help as soon as possible. So thank you guys so much for joining and have a great rest of your day. Bye everyone.